days of strength, will, and desire, building a future for me and you. Let's get inspired and shine the spotlight on the CUSW. Hello, and welcome to the CUSW Spotlight Podcast, brought to you by the Canadian Union of Skilled Workers, established in 1999. CUSW has been empowering its members and shaping the future of skilled trades for over 25 years. In this podcast, we shine a spotlight on the people, stories, and values that make CUSW a strong and dynamic community. It's an exciting time to be part of this union, and we're here to celebrate the journey, achievements, and dedication of skilled workers. So turn up the volume and let's get started. Here's your host for the CUSW Spotlight Podcast, Mr. Dan Plexman.
Welcome to the CUSW Spotlight Podcast. I'm very, very proud to have a really close ally of the CUSW on the show today, Val Vanderwyk. Val is the Executive Director of ISEAD. And for those of you who don't know what ISEAD stands for the Indigenous Skills, Employment, Apprenticeship, and Development. This used to be ABOL, the Aboriginal Apprenticeship Board of Ontario. And like I said, Val is the Executive Director of ISEAD, and I'm very glad to have her on the show today. I read an article a little while ago that Val was quoted, and she actually said, CUSW feels like family. And it really makes me realize that the CUSW is growing in the right way. And I'm very proud for CUSW to be partnered with ISEAD in so many different ways. So let's welcome Val to the show. Hi, Val. How are you today?
Hi, Dan. It's great to be here, and sincere thanks to you and 𝗓𝗃 for extending the invitation and to CUSW for hosting the podcast. I'm excited to have our discussion.
It's always a delight to talk to you and to see you whenever our paths cross. I think it's been around 4 years since I knew who you were. And I think we officially started talking early 2024. We took part in the CUSW 25th convention together. And it's just been a great collaboration since then. Can you kind of give the viewers at home a little bit more story about yourself and how do you fit into the CUSW family?
Oh, okay. I think to start, it's kind of hard to determine exactly where I began fitting into the CUSW family. I kind of think that it's been a long journey for the two organizations working together. For my own part in this, I am a Mi'kmaq First Nations woman. My family originated from Nova Scotia, from New Brunswick. I was born in Toronto, actually, and I'm very proud of that heritage. It's something that took me time to grow into and understand, as I am a survivor of the Sixties Scoop, which I'm sure for those who aren't familiar with it was the sequel to the residential school system here in Canada. But as far as our organization goes, we've had CUSW and 𝗩𝗹𝗲𝗍𝗶𝗲 at our table from the onset, from the very beginning. That has been an allyship and a partnership that has just consistently grown steadily time and time again. What I would say is that CUSW is kind of like the big brother who never forgets your birthday. They're always there. They always remember you. They invite you to partake and be part of things. And even more importantly is the level of comfort that we receive from all members, and knowing that the safety that's provided by having that partnership in that relationship with CUSW for not just our staff, but the communities that we serve.
It is true. You can see it and you can feel it at the boardroom meetings that we've shared, the conferences, the conventions. There's a real kinship with our two organizations. And mentioning 𝗩𝗹𝗲𝗍𝗶𝗲 and all the other strong supporters, we're so honored and we're very fortunate to be part of all this, definitely. I see it in CUSW, we do support each other. And I'm just wondering, how does that relationship look from the ISEAD side?
That's a big question. So I'll do my best to pull it into bite-sized pieces if I can. So for our part at ISEAD, one of our main mandates is to ensure equitable access for Indigenous people in their communities to opportunities in training, education in the skilled trades through apprenticeship. That's one of our big pieces. It's the foundational growth of where we came from. Having CUSW support that every step of the way has been, quite honestly, rather breathtaking from my perspective as the executive director. The support that we get from the members and from the leadership of your union never wavers. It never wavers. It's always there. It's consistent. It is steady. And we are supported in the decisions and the changes that we look to make, the resources that we share, the opportunities we have to work together. It seems endless. The more people I start to interact with at CUSW and the opportunities to get to know people, what I think I enjoy about it the most is their sincerity, to get to know you as an individual and as a person. Recognizing that the work is still there, the work still needs to be done, but it's that connection, the person-to-person connection, I think, which really drives a lot of it, which for us at ISEAD is really important. Community matters to Indigenous people. It's really everything for us. So when I make comments like CUSW is like family to us, it's said with all sincerity, truth, and honesty. A lot of the times when we're doing work, and if I'm not certain, is this the right step? I will draw on our brothers and sisters at CUSW for some advice. I'll pick up the phone, I'll call somebody. It's like, what do you think of this? Or this is what we're thinking about doing, or here's another idea that we're working on, and vice versa. So we also get brought into the other side of that equation where, would you like to participate in this, or can you assist us with this? And it's like, absolutely. So it's a mutual relationship of support. And I think for us at ISEAD, it's become a consistent thing that we know we can count on time and time again.
Yeah, you're totally right about the family feeling. When I'm doing this podcast, I ask the guests, like, how do you fit into the CUSW family? It sounds so corny sometimes, but it's the truth, especially with my own experience with CUSW and going through the whole process of being injured and having to return to work and realizing I can't return to work. They really went beyond above the call of duty to make sure I could find a spot for me again. And that's what family does. I kind of felt the same thing when I first met your group. Like one of your colleagues, 𝗩𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍, great guy. And I think I've joked about this with you before when I said he should change his last name from 𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍 to Transparency. Because for a really big guy, like, he is a big, strong dude. He could move stuff. He could probably do some damage if he really wanted to. But when you talk to him, it's like he turns into the Invisible Man because he's just so transparent. And I love that about him. And I love that about ISEAD, yourself. I think it's one of those qualities that just kind of magnetized the group here. We just kind of joined together because we were attracted to each other.
I'm going to agree with all of that. And then I'd like to add a little bit too. 𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍 is the best of us. He's the longest serving team member at ISEAD and the former ABO. I guess I'm second. I guess I'm like 6 or 7 years in now myself. And this is my second year as the executive director. So very honored and humbled to be in that position. I like to say that I might come up with great ideas, but what good are they if they're not going to actually serve the people that we're looking to support, work with, and our partners? 𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍 is, and when I say the best of us, I truly mean that. He is my brother. He is my spiritual guidance in those moments where I have doubt. Is this the right step? I always turn to him to find that grounding to keep me centered. It's an important relationship that we have amongst our team. And one of the commitments that I have made to them is very clear, and it's very simple. As the executive director of this organization, I will never put results before people. They will always be the first thought on my mind. How is this going to affect them? And I sense a lot of that same sort of ideology from CUSW. People matter, right? And I tend to find that because of my responsibility as the executive director of this organization is to ensure that I find the resources for our team so that they can be successful in their role. If they have everything that they need to be successful, then we'll find the results that we're looking for. I sometimes also sort of compare that to understanding where we are in our own path. How do we continue to grow as individuals and collectively as a team? We are very much intertwined and bound together. You know, somebody will let me know that an aunt passed away. They say, take all the time you need. Somebody was injured, for example, in a car accident. It's like, you're still going to get paid, and the rest of the team's going to pick up the work, and we need you to heal. We need you to be whole when you come back to us. So like you, health and safety is extremely important to me. It's beyond just the physical safety of an individual. It's that psychological safety, the psychosocial safety of a workplace, which is where we have that ability to feel that level of comfort when we interact with CUSW, its members, at its events and at our own events. And we're proud of that relationship. We don't hide it from anybody. This isn't a competition. And I think my personal strongest point that I want to make with regards to CUSW is that with all of the support that we receive from them through partnership, through sponsorship of different events and things like that, their continued support of our organization supersedes the benefit that they even receive from it. There are times when the support we've received from CUSW and its leadership has absolutely nothing at all to do with what is going to benefit CUSW, but they're still there. They're still there because they recognize the effort in the long run filters down and fills the same values that they hold. Right? It's hard to find those values, right? It's hard to find that partnership. So it's extremely important to us that we maintain that. These relationships are not one and done for us. It's a continual growth, learning, and expansion.
Yeah, exactly. In my mind, we're looking at the big picture here. We're not just micro managing things. We're seeing far and beyond what we can all do together. And one of your points you just made, it brought me back to the last time I was with you and Danny. And I was listening to the conversation Danny and you were having with somebody else, telling you guys, appreciating your ability to teach and your ability to mentor. And throughout the conversation, you and Danny basically said, that is a good thing, but we look at ourselves like lifelong learners rather than teachers and rather than mentors. And I walked away feeling, wow, like that was one of my aha moments when I think of you and Danny and with ISEAD especially. You need to be a lifelong learner so you can be a mentor, so you can be a teacher. And when you are a lifelong learner, you can break into people's hearts, break into their minds, where you can develop relationships by learning about them. And I really appreciate the fact that as CUSW members, ISEAD is allowing us to learn more about the Indigenous culture and the history behind it. It's a big part of Canada, and we can't be the Canadian Union of Skilled Workers and have that name with not recognizing what's going on and the contribution that the Indigenous culture has made to Canada and to all of the workforces and our communities.
First of all, thank you for that. I think it's really important that we pay respect to the fact that CUSW doesn't just talk about these things. They actually live, right? It's part of the fabric of who the organization is, and it trickles down from the leadership at the top all the way down to the membership on the floor. I think that we need to recognize that reconciliation is something that's an individual journey. And for a union like CUSW to make that individual journey possible for all of its members is quite remarkable. I've had great conversations with people who are genuinely interested in learning more or knowing more about reconciliation. What does it look like? Like how do we do that? Well, there are a lot of different ways that we can start, but I like to think that we need to recognize what we know and we need to accept what we don't know. As the moment we figure out where we are, we can figure out where we need to go. Right?
Yes.
And one of the things I like to share with people is that reconciliation is not Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. It's here. It's here. And where we go, it goes with us. Right. So it becomes part of the fabric of who we are as individuals. And what do we want to purport and put forward to people? I can say honestly that as the executive director of ISEAD, there is no decision that I make in a leadership role where I do not ask the question, how is this going to affect the next generation and the 6 generations that follow it? Because it is a ripple effect. So the decisions that I make today in my role, in my capacity, how's it going to affect my team? How does that impact them, their homes, their communities, their families? So it's the encompassing part of when we say community, we mean everybody. It's not a one-off. And if we consistently apply that same principle to everything that we do, then you start to see valued change. One of your members, Chris Stevens, in one of the projects that I'm working with him on, he put a suggested reading list together for us. And some of these books I had not heard of before. It was like, this is interesting. When I talked to him about a couple of these titles, so I went out and I bought them. Even though they are reflections of the non-Indigenous people understanding what reconciliation is for that pathway forward with Indigenous people across the land, I think I do a disservice to that sort of allyship if I don't know what's in those pages, right? So I read the books too. It's important to know that if this is the information that we are sharing, we need to understand it as Indigenous people so that we can reference it, so that we can speak openly and earnestly about it, and understand that while we may have some differences here and there, at the end of the day, we do all have the same end goal here. We are all looking for that common place where we are going to see people working together as a community, working together because it actually matters and it changes lives. It changes lives. So do we know everything? No, we don't. I can simply tell you that as a survivor of the Sixties Scoop, there's lots I don't know because I was stripped away from me long ago. So it's been, again, going back to that lifelong learning and understanding. When those moments of doubt creep in, it's like, am I doing this right? Or is this the correct step to take? I always stop myself and I ask myself, where did that doubt come from? Where did it come from? What is causing you to doubt what you're doing now? And find out, like, dig down and be honest with yourself, because we don't have all the answers, but we can certainly work together to try and accomplish the goals that we have.
Wow. I'm just thinking about our last time together. I took part in that Danny Deliri's Indigenous Culture Awareness presentation. I believe it went on for 3 or 4 hours. And stuff we were just saying about how we need to appreciate and learn about each other's cultures back and forth. It's kind of hard not to do soul searching, no matter what side of the fence you're on. And there's a lot of us out here who are kind of on both sides of the fence and don't even really know it. Personally, I'm a white, pasty male, Canadian, green eyes, red hair, brown hair. But I'm actually a Métis Nation of Ontario. My grandmother is an Indigenous MNO, but I really don't know very much about that side of my family. And it's not because it was something where we didn't talk about, but it was just never something that we were taught to bring up in regular conversation. And since I've become more aware of all this, I have been doing soul searching of myself. And it's really difficult to even comprehend how all of this has happened over the last 200 years, the last 500 years, and hitting a point to where we are now.
I think part of that too, Dan, comes from the measures and the steps that were put in place by successive governments a long time ago. Various different religious factions that became involved in a lot of the things that took place, an unwillingness to even recognize the Métis Nation as a people, a distinct culture and society with their own language and everything else, so that resistance that was there. A lot of the things that have happened, people weren't supposed to know about it. It was an active effort by government to keep it from the public, because in my part, I have to believe that if the general population of this country knew what was happening to the Métis, the Inuit, and the First Nations people of this land, they never would have stood for it.
Exactly.
So I look at it from a perspective, like maybe that's a little pie high in the sky thinking on my part. That's okay. That's what helps get me through the day sometimes. It's like, it's worthwhile believing in people. I believe in people. I think that brings us to, again, the same sort of thing where when we have those questions, when we take a look at partnerships, when we continue to build out relationships and the different aspects of how we're trying to build out ISEAD, we want partners like CUSW to be there with us every step of the way, because you have been to this point, right? So we know that we can rely on that relationship and the dignity of who we are to be kept safe.
Right. Yeah, like it always does boil down to people. And I look at a lot of the history with the Indigenous culture and how things have come to be. It was typically organizations. is religion. It was government. It was big business. These are all big organizations, big associations, groups of people joining together for their own needs and for their own conquering. And now we're at a point in history, I feel, groups like the CUSW, groups like ISEAD, we can join together and we can make things right. We might not be as big as the government. Might be big as all these other organizations, but we are growing and we are making a difference.
And I think that difference is what people hear, regardless of size or numbers, the level of discussion around, and I hear it more and more, even from different people that we work with, that they hear that CUSW is a really good union that supports its members. It's like, absolutely. I said, and then so much more, right? It's beyond that. It's beyond just supporting your members. It's beyond bringing that sense of community and family to your members. That's how you treat everybody. And I think that's to be commended time and time and time again. You don't see that in a lot of places. You don't have the opportunity to be able to view the options or different ideas or have that sort of level of knowledge and experience with another organization where you know that you can go to them and ask very candid questions and get a very honest, earnest response, right? I think that the genuine nature of CUSW, it permeates every level of your organization.
And I think a big part of that is how our union came to be and how our structure works. We're a grassroots organization, and that is where our decisions are made from the ground up. And we can just feel the energy with ISEAD having the same mentality, the same focus.
Yeah. And I like to make sure that our team is included in all of my conversations because none of this happens without them. None of it.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And I respectfully tell them all the time, the reason you were selected for the position you're in is because you can do something I can't do. If I could do it, would. I honestly believe that we need to bring people onto our teams like ISEAD, and we need to give them our trust. We need to trust that they know how to do what they've been brought on to do, that they are hired for their skill and their ability, and we recognize that in them, and I respect them for that. And then I just get out of their way.
Yes, lived experience that counts for so much.
I get out of their way. I will let you do that because that's what you do. There's no ego here. I can tell you that. None of this work belongs to me. This is not mine. This is ours. It belongs to everybody and everyone who has a hand in it and partaking in the success of our organization. I hope they feel that the success of their organization is reflected through that. We are fortunate to be guided by a really great board of directors that has several members of CUSW on it. And I consider them among some of my closest friends, quite frankly. So I trust their judgment. I trust the direction that they provide. And we move forward every time from that point.
Yeah, we really do. Speaking of successes and succession, everything going on here, what's one of your personal successes that you've recognized with your involvement with ISEAD? Something that you're mostly proud of, or something that you've witnessed that you're like, yeah, this is why I'm here. This is why I do this. Is there any particular story that kind of pops out in your mind?
There are a lot of stories, a lot of them, some of them kind of funny, some of them kind of funny to me, but I expect it, maybe I'll share that and then I'll share something else. So just the other day where I live, we are on one of the major walking trails in our county. And so I meet lots of really interesting people walking past our property and their dogs, and on my flagpole, I still have the Every Child Matters flag. So I had a rather gruff fellow walking past the other day and I was outside and he says to me, he says, you should really take that down. It's really disrespectful for Canada if you keep reminding them. So again, those are the moments where you stop. You ask yourself, did I just hear that? And the answer is yes, I just heard that. So my response as he was walking away was like, well, I just want to thank you for bringing that up and reminding me of why I fly this flag. I just wish I could remember where I left my Jolly Roger.
You actually said that?
So, well, that's one instance. So where people have their own thoughts and their own biases again. But I go back to recognizing and remembering that reconciliation is at 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, only on September the 30th.
Yeah. For some people,
or
it is.
June 21st
Yeah.
or May 5th, right?
Yeah.
These are everyday things. And while we may have those days where we can recognize that, yep, we have a country now that's stopping and recognizing and understanding these days and what they represent. But this is an ongoing thing. Like, these things don't stop for Indigenous people on days other than those days. This is their lived experience day in and day out. So as far as things that I'm proud of, wow, that's such a big question. Dan, I don't know that I could narrow it down much, but I would think that one of my proudest moments that helped get me where I am is knowing that I have a strength within me that cannot be silenced. Cannot be
That's
stopped,
for sure.
right? I like to make sure that my children understand that respect is something that we give. And when we can do that, we receive it in return. Remember to keep smiling. Life is going to try and knock you down time and time again. Keep smiling. It will go forward. So what I guess I'd like to share is what I share with many people is that, I'm reminded that the Creator has me on a path, and this is my path. And I'll be honest with you, I don't always like my path. I don't, but it is my path to walk. And along the way, I know that there are lessons I need to learn. So as difficult as it can be sometimes, we still need to persevere and continue to move forward, regardless of what we may run into as we do that. And I'm reminded that along the way, the Creator continues to place people along my path as I walk through my days. And every single one of those individuals is worthy of a discussion. They are worthy of my trust, and they are worthy of listening to their story. And I may not know why today I'm having conversations with people, but I promise you I will within 3 months. There's a reason why we take the time to appreciate somebody else's presence in our life. And I think if more people could do that and take small steps to make those sorts of changes, we would start seeing some really significant things happening when it comes to things like reconciliation. So I would say that's probably one thing that I am most proud of, is that no matter how difficult it gets, you can still stand up and be respectful, kind, caring, and offer opportunities of friendship.
Well, they're great words. And I must say, spoken like the fabulous mentor, advocate, and teacher that you are. And most of all, the lifelong learner that you really are. That's one of my things I'll always learn and remember about you, Val. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Well, we've had a great conversation. Seriously, really appreciate you being on the show today. And before we dim the lights on the show, is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience at home? It doesn't have to be in particular about the CUSW, the ISEAD relationship. It could just be something that's near and dear to you.
Yeah, I would say that we live in a world that is tested day in and day out with decisions that people make around us. And above all else, be kind. Be kind.
Yeah, that's my motto. Totally be kind. Well, Val, it's been a very, very kind conversation. I really appreciate the time you spent with us today, and collaborating with ISEAD and with you, and just building this relationship. On behalf of the CUSW family, on behalf of the CUSW Spotlight podcast, I truly thank you for being on the show, and we look forward to having you back for another topic. I'm sure you probably have about 5 or 6 in your pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to come back and see what else we can put together, because I think there's lots to say, lots of ways that we can reach people. And, ISEAD is here. We're here. And if people have questions or they need some support or directions on how to do this or where do we start, that's why we're here. That's why we're here. So 𝗩𝗍𝗄𝗆 to our family at CUSW, we are honored to be with you.
Thank you very much, Val. And like you said, ISEAD is here to stay, and we're very proud of that. We're very happy with that fact as well. So before I completely shut the lights down for the show here today, everybody, if any of you at home want to get in touch with Val or myself, just refer to the show description at the end of the show. You can find all our contact information there. Maybe some of you want to be a guest on the show. Maybe you have ideas and suggestions. We want to hear from you. Please reach out to us and tell us what you want to say. And thanks again, Val. And that is a wrap. Thanks, everybody. Take care, Val.
Thank you for shining bright in the CUSW spotlight. Let's get inspired and shine a spotlight on CUSW.